Intro music. Upbeat, yet primal and mysterious. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're embarking on an incredible journey, not across continents, but across time itself. We're going back, way back, almost 5 million years ago, to a world so wild and untamed, it would take your breath away. Imagine giant forests stretching as far as the eye could see, rivers carving silver lines through endless grasslands, and a wind that whispered stories older than memory itself. This wasn't our world. This was Earth, ruled not by humans, but by creatures guided by pure hunger, instinct, and the ancient rhythm of the seasons. But somewhere in the heart of a vast continent, on a plateau nestled between towering stone cliffs and shimmering water, something truly extraordinary was beginning to stir. They weren't yet called humans. They didn't have words, or names, or even dreams as we know them. Yet, if you looked deep into their eyes, you'd see a question burning there. A simple, profound question. How do we live another day? Their bodies were small, their tools primitive, their shelters fragile. But within them, there was a light, a stubborn flame that no storm, no predator, no hardship could ever extinguish. It was the raw, undeniable will to survive. Music slightly shifts, becoming more reflective. Let's talk about a day, a specific harsh dawn in that ancient world. The day began before sunrise, as most days did. The air was thick with the cold, carrying the earthy scent of wet grass and dust. Huddled beneath a rocky ledge was a small group, 3 adults, 2 younger ones, and an elder whose weathered face told tales of more seasons than anyone could count. Their skin was a roadmap of scars from claws, from stones, from endless encounters with a brutal world. Their hands were rough, their eyes constantly alert, scanning the darkness. They didn't have language like us, no complex grammar or vocabulary. Just soft grunts, subtle gestures, and cries that conveyed every emotion. But they understood each other, through a rhythm, a shared movement, a silent knowing. When danger loomed, their silence spoke louder than any word. Today, though, the loudest sound was hunger. They had gone to suns without finding enough roots or small prey. The youngest in the group whimpered, a thin, trembling sound that seemed to pierce the stillness of the dawn. The elder, without a word, simply raised a hand. Silence returned, swift and absolute. They would move soon, following the river downstream, where the morning mist might hide them, might offer protection from the unseen dangers lurking in the tall grass. The world was a relentless tester of their limits. Nights were getting colder, the rains more unpredictable. Droughts struck without warning, shrinking mighty rivers into muddy, forgotten memories. Yet they kept moving forward, always forward. Because even then, the meaning of life was simply to keep walking, to keep breathing, to keep trying. Music becomes slightly more hopeful and curious. Then came a moment that changed everything. At a bend in that ancient river, the youngest male, not yet fully grown, made a discovery. A stone shaped like a perfect triangle. Its edge, he noticed, was surprisingly sharp, sharp enough to cut bark. He looked at it, then at a dry branch nearby. It wasn't logic that guided him, not conscious thought, but pure, primal instinct. He struck the stone against the branch, twisted it, scraped it. Bits of bark flaked away, revealing the pale inner fibers of the wood. The rest of the group watched, their curiosity palpable. It was such a small act, almost insignificant. But in that precise moment, something truly extraordinary happened. Intention. He wasn't just reacting to his environment. He was actively thinking, manipulating it. The elder, seeing this, came closer. A grunt of approval escaped his lips. He mimicked the movement, picking up his own sharp stone. Soon, both of them were scraping branches and cutting vines. What had once been just a simple stone, a natural occurrence, had been transformed. It became a tool, a piece of thought made solid, an extension of their will. From that day on, sharp stones became precious. They carried them on their journeys, guarded them like priceless treasures. They learned which stones broke easily, and which held that vital, keen edge. They were no longer just surviving, they were learning, they were innovating. Music becomes tender and communal. When the sun finally sank beyond the cliffs, the night arrived with its ancient chorus, the hum of insects, the distant howls, the deep rhythmic breathing of the earth itself. They huddled together once more, wrapped in dry grass and animal hides. They didn't yet know how to make fire, but they possessed something else, something equally powerful: unity. When one was afraid, the others instinctively leaned close. When the wind turned cruel and bit through their meager coverings, they formed a tight circle, their small bodies becoming walls of warmth and comfort for each other. In those long, dark hours, the stars above them shone like endless, watchful eyes. Perhaps they didn't understand the vastness of the sky, but they certainly felt its profound mystery. Every flicker of starlight seemed to whisper a truth older than any word. You are small, but you matter. That awareness, that quiet sense of belonging to something far, far greater than themselves, was the very seed of spirituality. It gave them comfort. It gave them patience. It told them, in a way they couldn't articulate but deeply understood, that tomorrow was worth reaching for. It instilled hope. Music shifts to a more epic and triumphant tone weeks later. The cycle of hardship returned. Food became scarce again. The tracks of large animals had vanished from the valley. The rivers, once flowing, turned brown with dust. The young ones, always the most vulnerable, grew thin. But then, one morning, far across the plain, the group saw it. Movement. A herd of giant beasts, their massive tusks glinting like polished bone in the harsh sun. They didn't have weapons capable of piercing such thick hides, no spears or arrows. But they had something even more formidable: strategy. The elder, a master of silent communication, drew a line in the dirt with a stick. He pointed, he gestured, he moved his hands, mapping out a silent plan. The others watched, their eyes alight with understanding, and nodded. They began to circle the herd carefully, from three sides, slowly, inexorably driving the colossal beasts towards a hidden ravine. Stones flew. Primitive shouts echoed across the plains, and the earth itself trembled under the thundering stampede. And then one fell. A beast caught in the trap, stumbled and crashed to the ground. The group rushed forward, a coordinated blur of ancient instinct and newfound intelligence. It was incredibly dangerous. Single mistake could cost a life. But the pang of hunger was stronger than any fear. They worked together, a cohesive unit, tearing at the meat with their sharp stones, saving every precious scrap they could. For the first time in many moons, they ate until their hearts were calm, until the gnawing hunger was finally silenced. That night, under the vast ancient moonlight, something magical happened. They danced. They didn't know what dance meant, not in a conscious sense. They only knew that this immense surge of joy, this overwhelming relief, had to move, had to express itself. They danced because they had survived. Danced because they had overcome. They danced because they were becoming. The world, my friends, truly began to change, not just around them, but within them, because in those moments of shared triumph and unity, they began to dream. They began to become us. A journey back in time, not just to a period, but to the very dawn of what makes us human. Imagine a world where everything was new, everything was a challenge, and every discovery was a giant leap for humankind. Get ready for a story that's not just about survival, but about the incredible spark that ignited our species. Transition to the first section. Our tale begins long, long ago, when early humans lived by instinct, much like other creatures. They knew the seasons, tracked herds, and understood the subtle warnings in a bird's song. But their communication? Mostly cries and grunts. Then, one magical evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a mother called to her child with a sound that was different, soft, melodic, almost like a song. And the child responded, not with a grunt, but with laughter. In that tiny, tender moment, something profound shifted. It was the birth of language. Soon they started naming things: water, sky, stone, friend. These weren't just noises. They were sparks of thought, connecting one heart to another. Through these new sounds, they discovered something incredible: memory. Stories began to emerge, gestures turned into symbols, and events into lessons. Elders recounted tales of trapping a great beast, and the children watched, listened, and remembered. This is how knowledge began to survive, transcending individual lives. The voice became a powerful bridge, connecting generations. Transition to the second section, then came the storm. One terrifying night, the sky ripped open with lightning and thunder that roared like a primal beast. Rain lashed down, blinding them. Trees cracked, rivers swelled, and the very earth seemed to tremble. Frightened and soaked, they scrambled into caves. And there, amidst the chaos, they witnessed something spectacular. Fire. Born from a lightning strike on a dry tree, flames danced, golden and wild, most coward, terrified. But a young one, observant and brave, the same one who'd earlier sharpened a stone, edged closer. The heat touched his skin, a little painful, but utterly mesmerizing. He saw how the fire pushed back the suffocating darkness, how it warmed the chilled air, and how its glow kept predators at bay. Days later, after the storm passed, he found a smoldering branch and carefully carried it back to their cave, nurturing it with dry grass. He had tamed light. From that moment, nights were never the same. Fire changed everything, brought safety, warmth, cooked food, and most importantly, time. Time to gather, to think, to plan. Transition to the third section. With fire came stories, and around its flickering glow, they gathered not just to rest, but to remember, to share. They communicated with gestures, sounds, and laughter, and they began to feel something entirely new, belonging. The tribe transformed into a family. Each person found a role: hunter, gatherer, watcher, protector. The elder guided them not through brute strength, but through accumulated wisdom. When one fell ill, others cared for them. When one was injured, food was shared. Compassion, that invisible yet powerful force, began to take root. In a world that often rewarded only the strong, they discovered the immense power of kindness, and truly that was humanity's greatest invention. Transition to the fourth section, but life was a constant test. Years passed, and the once-lush valley withered. Herds vanished, rivers dried to dusty cracks. They faced a terrible choice: stay and perish, or walk into the unknown. The elder, now frail, looked towards the desolate horizon, a line between life and death. He placed a hand on the shoulder of that young one, the same boy who had given them fire and sharpened stones. In that silent, profound moment, wisdom passed like a flame from one torch to another. The next morning, they left their ancestral home. Days bled into weeks. The sun scorched their backs, and the harsh ground cut their feet, but they kept moving. When the youngest cried, others carried him. When someone stumbled, they were lifted. They didn't know where their journey would end. Only that stopping meant the end of hope itself. Transition to the fifth section. After what felt like an eternity of suffering, they finally reached a land they had never imagined. Cool air, towering trees, and clear water flowing freely over stones. It was paradise compared to the dying valley they had left behind. They drank deeply, laughed with renewed vigor, and hunted again. Life, vibrant and hopeful, returned. Here, they began anew, building shelters near caves, shaping stones into new tools, learning to weave grass into mats. And one quiet night, under a sky ablaze with stars, the young one sat by the fire. He pointed at the distant lights, tracing patterns in the air, a soft smile gracing his lips. Others joined him, attempting to mimic his gestures. They didn't know it then, but this was the first time humans truly looked up and wondered. Not just how to survive, but why we exist. That fragile, silent, infinite thought that was the birth of imagination. And there you have it, the incredible journey of our earliest ancestors. A testament to resilience, connection, and the boundless. Today we're diving deep into a story that's literally etched into our DNA, the incredible, awe-inspiring legacy of human survival. This isn't just history. It's our story, spanning millions of years, and it's truly mind-blowing when you think about it. Imagine a world, not just centuries ago, but generations, asterisk upon generations past. Children grew into savvy hunters. Those hunters became wise elders. And elders, well, they became the cherished memories whispered around the new fires. The world was constantly changing. The land shifted. Rivers found new paths. Even the stars in the night sky seemed to rearrange themselves. But through all that monumental change, one powerful truth never, ever faded. Humanity's story wasn't written by the strongest or the biggest, but by those who simply refused to give up. Think about it. Every single time our ancestors faced crushing hunger, paralyzing fear, or endless darkness, they dug deep and found another reason, another spark, another tiny glimmer to keep going, to live just one more day. And that relentless spirit, that sheer determination, wasn't just about individual survival. It was the bedrock. It was the very first step toward everything that would one day define civilization as we know it. We're talking about cooperation, working together as a team, empathy, understanding, and feeling for others. Courage, facing the unknown with bravery, faith, believing in something bigger than themselves, or simply in the promise of a new day. They learned, through trial and error, through hardship and triumph, that survival isn't merely about finding food or building shelter. It's about nurturing an unbreakable spirit, a resilience that allows you to face anything. That spirit is what carried them through, and it's what carries us still. Now, I want you to take a moment. If you close your eyes and listen closely to the wind today, no matter where you are, whether it's whistling across vast deserts, echoing through towering mountains, or just rustling the leaves outside your window, it still carries their whispers. It carries the faint yet powerful heartbeat of all those who came before us. It's a silent symphony of perseverance. Every single tool you hold in your hand, from your smartphone to your coffee mug, every fire you light, whether it's a campfire or the stove in your kitchen, every ambitious dream you chase, every bold idea you dare to imagine, it all asterisk. Every single bit of it asterisk began right there. It began in the brilliant, unyielding minds of those first humans who, against all odds, refused to surrender to the endless, daunting night. They walked through storms so ferocious, so immense, that we can barely comprehend them. All so that one day, we could walk under glittering cities of light. They faced hunger so profound, so constant, that we can only glimpse its shadow, all so that we could know and experience abundance in our lives today. They discovered rays of hope in the deepest, darkest caves, not just for themselves, but so that we, their descendants, could dream among the stars and reach for new frontiers. This isn't just some ancient, detached history lesson. This is not just their asterisk story. This, my friends, is undeniably our story. Because even after an astounding 4.7 million years, that very same incandescent spark of survival, that incredible drive to overcome, to thrive, still burns brightly in every single human heart. It's in you, it's in me, it's in all of us. And as long as we keep moving forward, learning from the past, caring deeply for one another, and believing in a brighter future, their extraordinary legacy will never, ever fade.